Hello, guys. We are live today for session number 16 of Carnivore Team GB. Myself, Jonathan, Phil Escott, and Lee Copus from @Kent Carnivore on YouTube. Just want to give this opportunity for Lee to introduce himself as a special guest and panelist tonight. This is a live Q&A, so please leave any questions you have in the chat with a Q, then a dot thing, as shown there. We'll happily get to them in the order that they appear on the screen. Anyway, how you doing, Lee, and what's going on?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks, mate. Yeah, not too much. I'm just finishing making our little project nice and sharp and that we did the other day. But if anyone doesn't know me, I'm Lee. I'm from Kent. I've been on the carnivore diet now for, I'm coming up 20 months. And so I'm really feeling good. I'm not, I mean, I'm it's not like I'm going to start feeling bad or anything, but, you know, it gets better and better. I originally started the carnivore diet to treat depression, just hoping that it would work. And after 3 weeks of BBBE, it lifted. And originally I set out to do a 30-day challenge, not really thinking that I was going to say goodbye to carbohydrates forever. I didn't have that mentality or that outlook going forward, but I have no intentions of consuming any plant matter whatsoever. And so, yeah, I'm relieved of my depression. I've now got a very unique perspective on food digestion because of a previous surgery I had 7 years ago. It was an ileostomy surgery. So I had ulcerative colitis, and that got so bad after 7 years that they had to take my whole colon out. And now, yeah, I can see how food is metabolized as it would enter the colon. And that's just another thing that confirms that I'm doing the right things, because everything that I eat now is liquidized by the time it gets to where the colon would start. And in the beginning, after I had my surgery, all this plant material, however I chewed that stuff, that's how it would go into the bag that I have to wear now on my stomach, unfortunately. There's some pretty grim news. Nobody knows about this yet. I think maybe only 2 or 3 subscribers, but, well, you'd know, Jonathan, but I have my final surgery that basically hopefully closes this whole chapter. So from the ileostomy surgery, they leave a little stump at the back end that connects to the rectum, and apparently they don't just take that all out in one go, which is a real nightmare, actually. I wish they did take it all out. Where I've only got 5 centimeters of stump, that apparently makes it more challenging. There's more risks because of how it encroaches more on the nerve tissue that pertains to kidney and bladder function. So for that reason, unfortunately, everyone, I have to have my whole stomach reopened and stents to raise the kidney and bladder out of the way, just to remove a silly little 5 centimeter bit of tissue along with the rectum that they left as an option potentially, which I don't have anymore. So that's coming up in less than 3 weeks. It's on the 13th of March. And so, yeah, I'm going to put the carnivore diet to the test in terms of my recovery. I'm not going to be consuming anything on the menu. My partner, Lucy, she's going to bring in, I'm thinking my plan is, I've dropped raw milk for a while now, but I'm thinking to start consuming a bit of raw milk, raw eggs, maybe a bit of raw liver. I don't consume any organ meats, but I think just to, in that initial stage for a boost, I think you've got a lot of growth hormone factors in the milk, a lot of nutrients, and liver, obviously very high nutrients. And then I may go to a 36 eggs a day protocol to try and get back to health, you know, with rapid healing and all this kind of stuff. And that's what I'm thinking in terms of a strategy there. But it will really be a good experiment to see, because it's supposed to be a 12-week recovery, but we will find out. I'm hoping to beat that. Good luck with that, man. Well, yeah, it's pretty grim stuff, but it's something that I can't avoid. It's been on the cards for 7 years. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I can't avoid it. The reason why it has to be removed is because of potential production of cancer cells, where it's very unnatural, the situation back there. And so over time, these cells can mutate. And if I get cancer, that's a whole other can of worms, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, my condolences. I mean, it's a step in the right direction to getting better, I guess. It's always that way, isn't it? I can't speak really much about that kind of issue, of course, but I will say my surgical healing was way better after my spine surgery. So absolutely, I was doing exercise about 8 days after it. Most people weren't doing anything for about a month, if not longer. So you'll experience a benefit, I'm sure. And as you've noticed from your own anecdotal experience, it's definitely a better state to be in terms of your digestive health and what's going out on that back end, I think. But I wanted to actually bring attention now to Phil, who actually has finally got some news for us.
Good news.
Yeah.
Good
At
news.
last, we've got the red pill food revolution. I can't see it on the camera. There it is.
Also looks like this.
Yeah. There we go.
It's like a supplement.
I got my first books of it today, and yeah, it's been a long time trying to get this out. It's the sequel to our red pill revolution, which is a bit more general and not really so much focused on food. But you know, Ben is the main author on this. He put together all the words. It was out of Zoom calls that we did together. But I think Ben has done a masterpiece here. I really do. I think it's probably the best book that's ever been brought out on the history of food and how we've been fooled into eating the wrong thing for a long time, longer than you think, like millennia, really. And it's just check it out. You know, share it, buy it for your friends and family. Really, it is. I can say that because I'm only like a consultant on it, and Ben put it together, so I can big him up more than he can himself. But amazing book. The feedback we've had from the people who are in the Big Fat Challenge, where you can get it anyway. You know, they've had it for quite some time as a digital bundle and audio book and everything, but it's available everywhere now. And it's been a while trying to get this one out, but there it is. So we just got it today. Yay.
Nice.
That's exciting news. Yeah, I mean, I've obviously listened to the audiobook and all that sort of stuff, and I think it's brilliant. It's very concise, but gives you all the information you could really want. And a lot of the stuff in there I did not know. So if you're watching this, you think, oh, yeah, I know what's going to be in it. Yeah, all this sort of conspiracy crap. No, there's so much more in it. You'd be quite surprised, honestly. I was gobsmacked by some of the figures in it, like the facts, statistics. And it was very eye-opening, honestly. So I do recommend people buy it if they have the opportunity to. Where can people find that out of interest?
I would just bung it in Amazon. It's all over the place. We went for the satanic Amazon, but I figured that if we can get this to more people, and you know, we put a couple of quid in Jeff Bezos's pocket, so what? I think the good it'll do will offset the harm of feeding the billionaires. It's very difficult to get it out and as print on demand anywhere else to get it worldwide. So there it is.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's all about sprouting the seed and, you know, planting the seed sort of thing, you know. So, you know, you imagine managing 10 people buy that in the first, I don't know, hour. Okay, it's 10 people that lives were influenced from it. And even if half of them actually listen to anything that's in it, okay, maybe they pass it on to 2 or 3 other people and 2 or 3 other people. Yeah, that's how that's information gets about. I mean, most of the people that I work with, funnily enough, don't actually watch my YouTube channel. They've seen me somewhere else on a different podcast talking to someone else. So it's all about cross-pollination, collaboration, that sort of thing. There's people that know me but won't know Lee, and me and Phil and me, you know, that sort of thing. So it's good to share ideas. And I mean, Lee is one of the few other carnivore people, in terms of anyone with any kind of resemblance of social influence online, that I've actually met or spoke to. So it's great to have him on tonight. But yeah, if you guys did have any questions, please let us know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to scroll through and see what's going on. I can't see any questions, if I'm honest. But
when did you write your first book, Phil? I was going to ask you.
It was probably finished a couple of years ago.
What, your very first book, was it?
Oh, this one? No. My first book was a book extolling plant-based diets in the mid-90s.
Well, yeah, because you used. I'm sure I heard you used to write when you believed in the power of perhaps a vegan diet, vegetarianism.
Yeah. No, yeah. I have my own one, which is called Arthritis: The Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me. I wrote that about 10 years ago or so, before I went fully carnivore when I was keto. But you know, all the sort of Jack Cruz stuff and you know, all the sort of ancestral things and how I fixed it. But everything, all to do, all the spiritual side of it as well. But that still, it ticks over and sells. I think it's the clickbaity title, you know, when somebody's got arthritis and they go into Amazon or something and they go, how could it possibly be the best? But it was. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here now with you guys. I wouldn't know what I know, you know. Matthew says, Phil, do you and Ben plan to release an audiobook version of your book? Yes, but well, it is actually on audiobook now, and you can get the digital bundle where you get the PDF, you get the Kindle version, you get the audiobook that Ben's recorded. I'm not sure how to find that. I know you get it for free if you join our Big Fat Challenge. We got so many freebies in there, but I'm going to have to look up that link. Maybe we'll put it underneath afterwards, but to the digital bundle. But this is sort of finally we've got it out on as a print version. And if my computer's pinging, my daughter's been off on a school trip to Oxford today, and why is it with kids they can never do one message? Ping, ping, ping. It's like one word, two words, one word. Anyway, she's obviously home.
I get that all day. You know, if anyone's watching this and they happen to want to message me for some reason, put it all in one message. Use paragraphs. Don't ping me. I get about 400 notifications a day. It drives me nuts. That reduces it by a quarter. I'll be happy. You know, there we go. But yeah, audiobook. So yeah, that's one I listened to actually. Yeah, that was a really good book, and it's got Ben's voice in it, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Crystal clear.
He's done the previous one as well, Red Pill Revolution. But anyway, enough for our books. Let's get to some questions. That's what they've come for.
The questions, all about the questions. Question from Nice Loki. Can you explain how we should know how much fat protein to eat in a day, please? New to carnivore, as just 4 days in. We'll give Lee the floor for this one, just because he's here. Lee, what's your take on it?
Well, I mean, a lot of the common advice here would be that when you start, for example, if you've come from a diet that's quite low in fats, certainly animal fats, and you were eating mostly carbohydrates, and now you're going to switch over, hopefully you're transitioning slowly, but it's quite a thing to switch from carbohydrates to fats for your energy. And so you're going to get a different response based on, you know, everyone's different as an individual. So if you're experiencing a little bit of fast output, you know, in terms of going to number 2, then you might want to pull back on the fat. Just like if you're constipated, you might want to increase fat. Some of these things just take time. You know, there's an adaptation phase, and mine, for me, you know, it seemed to align quite well at 3 weeks, but I continuously progressed into the months. I would say, you know, maybe even half a year where I could take on more fat. And if I was to do that overnight in the very beginning, there's just no way I could have handled it. So I think it's just about gauging on how you feel in terms of energy, what your output looks like, right? When you go to the toilet, there's a couple of things that you can go by. I mean, if you're not using all the fat, then you're going to be, you know, if you're absorbing all this fat and you needed more, you're probably going to have some constipation and that kind of thing. You're going to feel perhaps low energy. So I would just go by personal experience, how you feel, you know, how much energy do I feel like I've got, and just things like that. But it is tricky. I would say in the beginning, just aim for 50-50. I mean, if you're eating like ground beef and eggs, if you think eggs are 50-50, really, you know, you got your fats, your proteins, they've kind of sorted that out for you already. If you just got high fat ground beef, you can add some butter to that. That's close to 50-50, as long as you're consuming all those fats in the pan from the ground beef. I would go from there. If that's too much, you'll know about it and then pull back. If it's not, increase it. That's what I would do.
That's a sensible take. Yeah, I mean, going by feel is probably the best method, like intuitiveness. And Phil, how would you do it?
I just kind of, I think Lee's nailed it there. The only thing that I'd add really is that, you know, because I come from a sort of autoimmune background and the people I work with are usually autoimmune, that it's really essential to do that PKD kind of ratio of keeping the fats up. You know, the simplest way is 1/3 fat to 2/3 lean meat by sight on the plate. Never mind weighing it and all that sort of thing, or trying to work out percentage of calories, and then just eat that ratio and eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. It's that simple. But if you're autoimmune, then, you know, I would say cut the eggs and butter, use some tallow,
that's fair,
and stick to fatty beef and lamb. But that's just my sort of autoimmune thing. You know, if you're coming into it for just a bit of weight loss, sorry, fat loss, let's not say weight loss. And yeah, you know, there's this other question here, once a week man, where does dairy fat work the same as fat from meat? Again, it depends. You know, I would recommend that anybody who is thinking about this dairy thing, go to my channel and have a look at 2 videos that we did. Just put my name in and Zofia Clements, and you'll find those videos. And one is just a little throwaway one that Ben and I did when we were wandering around the Peak District with her. I think it's called "Is Raw Milk Even Worse for Autoimmunity Than Pasteurized?" She hit us with that sort of sledgehammer, and it was kind of interesting. Her theories, people get cross about it, but because there's, you know, this sacred cow of well, there you go, of raw milk. But if you're autoimmune, have a look at the full podcast I did with her and have a listen to why, you know, and what she's seeing, because she works with very, very sick people. And so for a lot of people, dairy can work just the same. But if you're having trouble losing, say, you know, get to a fat loss stall, particularly for women, it's very useful to cut the dairy out. First 4 years of carnivore, I ate meat and butter, basically, and a bit of cheese now and again. I was fine. Joints were fine, everything. But when I gave it up and went to tallow, I was blown away, you know, same amount of calories or whatever. And abs came out straight away. Sinus issues cleared up. So some people can be more sensitive to dairy than others, but they're more sensitive immediately to the pasteurized dairy, and then they go to the raw dairy and they think, oh, I have no initial issues because they've got all the lactase in there, it hasn't been destroyed. But as Zofia says, there's also more growth factors which can lead to unusual cell replication down the line. But you know, I don't know, some people seem to get on great with dairy, but is it an issue as you go down the line if you do everything else right? I don't know. I'm kind of a bit of a vegan on that adult animals don't need to drink milk. But that's about the only thing I agree with vegans on. If you love it and you get on well with it, go for it. If I could eat cheese and butter all day and then berries and cream with honey in, I would. Yeah, it's beautiful. But dairy is also hyperpalatable, so you eat a shitload of it, you know.
Yeah, you've got all those casomorphines, haven't you? It's shown to be addictive. You've got the casein, which is bad for autoimmune, so that's probably one of the problems that causes that inflammation. And then you've got the casomorphines, which have an addictive effect, and so it's quite moreish. I wonder whether, I don't know if you know about this, I personally don't myself, I don't know myself, but in terms of butter, if it's pasteurized, do you think that that's an issue with just, if it's concentrated fat? I know there's obviously going to be elements of protein and you've got a little bit of lactose, but do you think that's an issue if it's pasteurized? That could potentially cause problems there, or?
Well, maybe. I mean, I like that raw Santissini du Mer or something like that. They got some beautiful raw butters out there, but again, it is kind of hyperpalatable, isn't it? You know, I mean, I can eat, say, if I make a couple of burgers on my, you know, out of some ground beef, I can eat a couple of them. If I melt cheese on the top, I can eat 4. You know, you just can't stop. But what Zofia said, when my missus was diagnosed with Graves' disease, and we were at a carnivore conference we organized in Spain in 2019. And Zofia was saying to her, look, you can't have anything. She always laughs when people say ghee. Oh, but ghee's had all the proteins taken out and whatever, and it's just pure fat. She goes, no, a few molecules will keep autoimmunity going.
Can I just interrupt quickly? We're getting a lot of questions in the chat because we're streaming to about 102 people across all 3 of our platforms. I'm unable to see which guys in the chat right now have questions. So as the question thing down here says, can you put a Q before it so I can see it? Otherwise, I cannot see the screen. I just see blurry words, basically. If you could put a Q before a question, otherwise it just won't get to and it being ignored and you won't like us for it. So we will ignore questions that don't have Qs before them. Yeah, carry on, sir.
No, that was it, really. Just, I don't know, look into the possible downsides of dairy and see if that might apply to you. I think the only way you're going to find out is, I just wish I'd known like 12 years ago, just fatty beef and lamb, salt and water, and then reintroduce things one at a time. And it's the only way you're really going to find out how you personally react to them, I think.
If you've got nothing wrong with you, nice low key, and you know you're coming for it just for weight loss or something like that, you know, fat loss, what I would recommend doing highly above all, but above doing anything else, is going to, I've posted 2 links to videos. I can't actually see them now, they've been removed, but if you go onto my channel, there's nutrition tracking on carnivore and how to start the carnivore diet in 2024. That's the most solid explanation of how to start a carnivore diet, bringing up all the things that the guys said, and also it gives you the amounts as well, so it says how to work things out, how to calculate things if you're trying to do it the more scientific approach. But along the line you won't need to do that, but I would suggest having a guide on your head of what you're eating each day, find an average, find a baseline, then work from there based on your goals, results, and frame at that period of time. That's probably what I'd do. But yeah, go onto my YouTube channel, How to Start Carnivore Diet 2024, and the other one is called Nutrition Tracking on Carnivore Diet. They're both like 10 minutes long. They're worth a watch, honestly. Let me get to the next question now, which is from Nice Loki again. So second question, can you give me suggestions on how to afford steaks other than paying stupid amounts at main supermarkets? Most people on a carnivore diet don't eat steaks. They eat minced beef. About 95% of people I speak to eat largely minced beef or lamb. I know Phil likes lamb. I know Richard likes a bit of lamb now as well. What about you, Lee? Would you buy
or lamb? So for the last 2 days, I've had mostly lamb, which is funny. Even the butchers have said, "Wait a minute, you're having lamb?" Because I usually have beef. It's like my go-to. But at the moment, I'm having these lamb loin chops. So we call them Barnsley chops, and they're just amazing. I have like 2 or 3 of them, based on the size, and then maybe some eggs. I feel great on that. Yeah. But I mean, if you're looking for cheap, if you've got a butcher, a guy you can just talk to and say, look, I would like to have a batch of ground beef, ground lamb, maybe even mix the two together. Often they want you to buy a kilo if you want it made a specific way, and it's really dirt cheap. I can't remember what I paid now. I think it was about £9 for a kilo. I think, is that right? Something like that. Right. Dirt cheap. I couldn't believe it. And he said, well, look, if the more fat you have, I said like 70-30, and he was like, you could have 90-10 if you want. He said, the more fat it is, the cheaper it's going to be. So that, if you really want to, you can have dirt cheap ground lamb, ground beef, add eggs. Like, if I know what Phil's saying about autoimmune problems, if you haven't got those issues, add eggs, add butter. They're the cheap ways of going about it. You wouldn't go and get ribeyes every day. That's going to break the bank quite quickly, most likely.
How much do you have you to spend on food a day? So an average day in a given week, where whatever, just normal day.
I mean, for me, honestly, at the moment, I can spend quite easily 20 quid a day, and that doesn't bother me. It's my priority. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't snack, I don't go out to eat, I don't have takeaways. I haven't bought anything other than meat for about a year. Not one thing, nothing. I pay my bills, I pay my mortgage, I buy my meat, and I buy some water, salt. That's it. So, I mean, I justify paying 20 quid a day easily. And sometimes I treat myself to a 30 quid, lovely, beautiful piece of beef. If it's there, so it's like 1.2 kilos, 30 quid. I can justify it because I've got that. I can afford to do that. I'm not rolling in it. I clean windows for a living, but the way
you don't buy the other crap. You don't buy stuff you don't need from the shop.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you add that up over the week, I mean, it's quite easy to me. I used to buy a £5 breakfast before I went to work. Then I would have a 10 quid lunch, right? You add this up over the week, and then you account for the fact that I went out every 2 weeks to have dinner with my partner. And then I was having takeaways every Friday or Saturday, which cost me 30 quid. And so you think, well, that's my treat for the week anyway with the meat, So I can spend sort of 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 pounds. That's the week. Then a 30 quid steak or whatever. And I'm still spending less money than what I was spending before. And I was more bothered about clothes. I was more bothered about, I don't buy hair products. I don't use toothpaste anymore.
Me and Phil don't either.
Yeah, I don't bother with stuff. I wash in water. I clean my teeth with water. After, I clean my teeth with steak. That's what I always say. I have teeth right now. I just feel clean because I've bit into a nice big steak. So, yeah.
Fair, yeah. What about you, Phil? How much do you spend on food a day?
No idea. Honestly, I'm terrible. I just kind of close my eyes and go there, because I've got the kids. I got 2 kids, missus. I don't know how much we spend. I really don't know. But it's a huge part of our budget. But it's not as much as people think. It's no more than we used to buy before. And then you'd buy all the supplements to try and offset the damage from all the broccoli that you were eating and stuff like that. And then the compost drawer in the fridge where it rots down and so much gets thrown away. And it's just worth it. We do live mostly on ground beef, but the kids really love sausages. So we get them those Heck sausages as well. And that sort of things like that bump it up. I don't like it. It's pork, which I don't do well on. It's got a few fillers in, no wheat or anything, but not much. But yeah, you can eat pretty. I mean, just put carnivore on a budget into YouTube. You'll find a ton of videos, good ideas for doing it. Something we also do is to get the cheaper cuts that are already fatty and like slow cook them, or slow roast them, put them in the slow cooker, or roast them, you know, short ribs, stuff like that, really fatty short ribs. What do you call it? Shin beef is great. Make casseroles out of that with bone broth. And we also go and get a load of fatty offcuts from the grass-fed farm, which costs almost nothing because, as Lee says, you know, you get, you know, the more fat you have, the cheaper it is, because people think it causes heart disease or whatever. So they cut it all off and throw it away. But if you go down there, you'll get that cheap, and you can render that down into tallow to cook in, and that's what we do. So.
Yeah. I spend about £10 a day for my carnivore diet. That includes water, that includes salt, that includes meat, dairy, eggs, fish.
That's
and I'm 108 kilos, and that's actually more than what I usually would spend. Because I'm eating quite lean right now. The leaner cuts of meats, I'm chicken, turkey breast. I get a lot of minced beef from down the farm, down the lane, raw milk. That costs quite a bit of money. But when I'm eating a more mixed diet, so perhaps more eggs, more cheese, you know, per unit of macronutrient, it ends up quite cost efficient for me. But I've worked out myself. I went to Asda, I think it was, or Aldi, and I worked out the average man in the UK can afford a carnivore diet for between £30 and £35 per week. Granted, that's going to be barn eggs, it's going to be 20% fat, basics, beef, you know, that sort of thing, cheddar cheese, like store bought, you know, generic branding, but it still does the job. It's going to be 100% better than anything else.
Yeah.
So you don't need to spend all this money, guys.
I'm vastly superior to your 7 to 10 a day, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you're not spending, like Phil's not spending like money on medication and drugs and crap. It's more time efficient. I put my food in an air fryer, pan, 10 minutes later, take it out, done. I save so much time doing that, and someone that doesn't like to stand for 8 hours upon hours doing stuff, it's really helpful. But yeah, we'll get on to the next question, which is from John Martinson. I remember this gentleman actually asked the same question to Bart K about 6 months ago, so I'll save my answer to say I think the same thing that Bart K said. I think that's the best way to tackle it. But what do you guys think in terms of addiction, pancreatitis, cirrhosis, things like that?
Well, yeah. Well, a lot of people say that they give this up, you know, pretty easily when they go carnivore. There's a lot of people say that, you know, coming out of it with a dry fast can help to do it. I would say, you know, we've got some stuff on our Big Fat Challenge, but you can find it just over YouTube. Just EFT, emotional freedom technique, for kind of reprogramming your brain to get rid of addictions. You know, the cirrhosis, pancreatitis, it depends how severe it is, but, you know, it should settle down on its own unless it's something you need to be hospitalized for. Cirrhosis, again, depends how far it's gone. I don't know. But the liver is a forgiving organ. It tends to rebuild an awful lot better. I mean, I remember when I had fatty liver and cysts on the liver and everything, and they used to ask me if I was an alcoholic, and I'd been teetotal for 30 years, but that was all the plants. And now I got rid of that. Even the cysts went. And my last blood test that I had, when the vegans were asking me, you know, you're gonna die of cancer, or you're going to be diabetic like Sean Baker, the weird things that get into their heads, you know. So I went down and had blood tests. They were all perfect except for LDL up, which is where you want them. And then I said, yeah, but what about the liver results? Because I've rediscovered brandy. And I thought, I'm going to mess my liver up. But no, it was perfect, absolutely perfect results. So the carnivore diet is also, you know, running on tallow is also very protective of the liver if you do drink now and again, but I'm not recommending it. It was just a sort of new craze because I missed out on it in my teens, 20s, 30s and 40s. So, you know, it doesn't seem to affect, but it's no good.
Well, Michaela is sensitive, isn't she? She drinks, but Michaela Peterson, I don't think you get more sensitive than that. And she can actually tolerate bourbon and non-Russian vodkas, apparently.
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah, we'll have to get mashed together one day and talk nonsense. Oh, there's Bart. Hello, mate.
He's popped in. I think he's on Phil or Lee's channel. I'm not sure.
Excellent, Bart. I do appreciate that. I actually wondered whether I was wasting my time even reacting, and I thought, you know what, it's given me a topic for a video to make, because sometimes you just want a video to make, and I've got a couple behind the scenes that I'm working on. But yeah, that would be great. I mean, they've obviously got themselves in a situation where they think that studies are the be all and end all, where most of them aren't robust. And yeah, they're very much blue pilled, woke, modern age vegans that are, yeah, what can you say, really? They need help.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some very odd people in the chat right now. You guys will see it in a second. Yeah, we'll ignore that and hopefully it just disappears on its own. But we'll get to the next question just because I don't know anything about cirrhosis. But what's the best way to up your fat intake and what's your favorite method of cooking meat? Favorite fat for me, butter. It seems to have made up most of my fat intake in my diet for the last 4 years. And I don't seem to be dead. I'm not unwell. I'm not unhealthy. I'm not deficient. I'm not lacking saturated fat from animals. It tastes pretty good, and I have to eat a lot of it because I'm a big, heavy bloke. Favorite cooking method? At the moment, I'd say probably air frying or slow cooking. That's my two. I don't use a pan much. I always burn stuff up crap at cooking. So, what about you guys? What fat do you like to use, and what method of cooking?
Beef dripping tallow is my thing, and I usually use a cast iron pan, so it does get pretty smoky in here. I'm often turning the fire alarm off just to cook with and open the doors and all that. But yeah, that's my go-to. I find it quite quick and convenient. I often take my meat out first thing just before I even go to work, and you know, during this time of year, at least, if I was to come back from work in the summer, I would take it out perhaps an hour and a half before I cook.
As long as you put it away before you go to work, because if you're window cleaning, that's going to be a hell of a view for people. I'm sorry, I could never resist the toilet here.
No. Do you know, when I was looking back at a video I was making, I'd take my meat out. Luke, she was having a me about that. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? But that's just innocent old me, really. Yeah, that's my favourite way to cook. You know, a cast iron pan. But what I must do is purchase one that hasn't got that griddle, because I don't really like to have that like black. Burnt, crisp. Do you know what I mean? And it's very difficult. So I'm constantly turning the meat around in the pan and I use a little bit more beef dripping and tallow for that reason. It kind of, because it does try to stick, and then when it sticks and you leave it there and to the point where it won't stick, you turn it over and it's just black. And so I kind of pop it in and I'm constantly turning it around, and I flip it and I keep it moving. But that's my method. I'm yet to get a proper skillet, a cast iron skillet that's just flat, you know, which would be great for eggs as well.
All right, Phil, favorite meat, favorite butter, or favorite cooking method, favorite butter, or fat even.
Well, favorite fat is butter, but it doesn't really love me. So yeah, tallow, and air fryer quite often now. I mean, the missus bought one. And what on earth do we need that for? I really love it now. It's great. You know, so easy with the kids. I sometimes, if I put something in the air fryer that doesn't have enough fat, I'll throw a load of tallow in as well. So I love those things when they advertise air fryers as, oh, it's all low fat because all the fat sinks to the bottom and all that. I just tip it back on again. Don't you? I mean, it's better, isn't it? It doesn't burn, it doesn't stick. It's just lovely to tip back on again. Ridiculous low fat thing. So do that. Slow cooker sometimes in the oven, fry it in a pan. All kinds of things. Make a casserole. I don't have a favorite particularly way to cook meat. Depends what I fancy on the day.
Yeah, that's the same. That's true for me as well. I think it's convenient. The slow cooker is great. You can pop something on either before you go to bed, or you can pop something on before you go to work, and that's what I often do. And then when I come back, whatever I've got in terms of bones, it goes straight back in the slow cooker and just keep it going for like another 36 hours. Make bone broth, and yeah, it's great. And then you've got all your tallow there as well. Again, your beef dripping, whatever you put in there, you get all that fat. Separate that. You got your bone broth and your cooking fats again. So
nice. When we used to, okay, you're getting some troll comments here, Lee. I'm going to ignore them. So anyway, we're going to go to the next question from Matthew. What are your thoughts on beef protein isolate as a good substitute for whey protein, as I don't tolerate dairy well? Are the amino acid profile similar? I made a video which answered exactly this question. The cliff notes were beef protein isolate would be theoretically higher in deuterium because it's isolated rather than concentrated. Whey protein as a standalone supplement has more leucine in it, around 3 times more, something like 8 or 9 grams per 100 grams versus about 3 grams in the beef protein. There's a slight amount of beef protein, creatine in beef protein, but it's not that significant. Nutritional values other than that, in terms of B vitamins, all that sort of thing, minerals, pretty much the same. Omega-3 profile is virtually zero because there's none in it because it's oxidized as hell. And it's just not kept intact, and they're both low-fat products anyway, so there's not going to be any real significant difference in omega-3 or omega-6 anyway. That's the long story short about beef and whey protein. I mean, do you guys know anything differently to that, or no?
Sorry, I was just reading on my other comments there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, go to the next one. But yeah, Matthew, check out that video. It talks about different protein powders. The best one I came up with myself. As long as you can tolerate it, whey's the best one. Does dairy fat work the same as from meat? Nearly. You don't have as much stearic acid, I believe, in butter, but you do have more butyric acid in butter, which I'm sure Lee can tell us all about. But yeah, I mean, I've had a diet mostly of butter in terms of fat content. Over 50% of my diet has been butter in terms of fat for the last 4 years. I've not had any issues. However, just be cautious that some people deal with things differently. I don't tolerate massive amounts of saturated fat from rendered beef fat that well.
Yeah, me neither.
That's just me. But it's not to say I couldn't adapt to that. It's just right now I enjoy butter. I don't have a problem with it. You had a question earlier. I think it was about something to do with the proteins within butter. I'm not absolutely certain that it's going to cause someone to stop their healing, because you got the other side of it with the butyric acid. So it depends where the digestive distress is.
Again, like what Phil was saying earlier, if you've got autoimmune issues, there's going to be elements of casein.
Casein's the big one in terms of allergens.
For some people that are sensitive, yeah, gut health perhaps. Any autoimmune kind of disease going on there, it's probably not the best thing. It's funny, where I had my colon taken out, I'm obviously thinking, well, I'm cured, I'm healed. I actually question that pyoderma gangrenosum that I have developed. It's not because of the carnivore diet. This is something that, around 5% of patients with ulcerative colitis do develop this at some point down the line. It's just a very unfortunate position where I've developed it. I decided to fast and cut dairy because straight away I'm thinking, well, maybe dairy, like raw milk with its growth hormone and the casein protein, who knows whether that may be causing me issues. I fasted for 5 days. I got rid of the dairy, obviously. When I went back to refeeding, I didn't go back to dairy. That's pretty much where I cut dairy, honestly. And I haven't had many issues since. It just looks like a bit of scar tissue there now. Yeah. So it's difficult. I would have to add it back in to do a proper experiment. But in some ways, because I'm having the surgery soon, I don't want that to open back up, because that can be a bit of a nightmare if they do surgery on that while it's aggravated.
Yeah, anecdotes are really important. Obviously, you have the growth factor side of raw dairy, perhaps. Then I've seen contrasting evidence support that it's helpful for the digestive system because of the growth factors. So no one has a clue. No one has a clue. It's trial and error. I seem to tolerate it well, but Phil not so much.
With the different bacteria that's thriving, perhaps if you're stimulating the wrong bacteria, it's going to just have catastrophic outcomes. Perhaps it's very difficult to say. I really don't know. Factual, I couldn't tell you the science behind it. Like what you're saying, it's just an experiment. It's an anecdote. What works for one doesn't always work for somebody else. So
it's a mixed bag for sure. Yeah, for sure. Next question again is about meat, which is interesting. We usually get a lot of questions about bodybuilding stuff, or I don't know, electrolytes, but nothing like that today. We've got a question about sausages. Is there any meat to stay away from? I don't personally come across many sausages that are clean. The cleanest ones I've come across in the supermarket are Tesco Finest beef sausages. They've got salt and black pepper in them. I think that's about it. Other than that, I don't know. I wouldn't get the butcher stuff. They use about 25% of rusk and flour and added filler ingredients, and very proudly as well. You don't find good butcher sausages. So if you can source something good, as in maybe 95% plus animal meat, you might be okay. But I don't know. What about you guys? Burger sausages, processed meats. What do you guys think?
Go on, Phil. You go.
Yeah. I again, coming at it from the sort of autoimmune side, like pigs and chickens are not really fed what they're supposed to eat a lot of the time. So the fat can be a little bit more inflammatory than it should be. chicken, chicken and pork, I find people with autoimmunity don't get on with so well. I wish I did, because, you know, along with all my enormous amount of dairy that I could eat every day, I'd also have pork belly with the crackling on it, because it's fantastic. But again, once in a blue moon, you know, if my son wants it, totally happy for him to eat it. I'll cook it for him. I might have a bit, but I'm better off without it. And it's the same for chicken as well, because chicken is not fed what it's supposed to eat. If you can find some chickens that have actually run around eating sort of mice and bugs and like they're supposed to, but even when they say they're free range, they just they just let it out, you know, for a bit to run around and throw some corn at it anyway. Oh, hilarious. We got somebody, how do you kill your animals, with your claws or teeth? I love that one. And how do you dig up your root vegetables? Do you dig it up with your perfectly adapted snout then? Do you swing through the trees with your prehensile tail to pick your fruit? Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, that's an amusing one. So yeah, I think, you know, beef, lamb, some of the processed meats contain a load of fillers and spices that people sometimes react to, but all of this stuff is just so much better than plants. So whatever.
Yeah, true.
It's interesting for me. It wasn't too long ago. I had my butchers. I just fancied sausages. I thought, you know, I haven't had sausages forever, felt like. And I was probably 7-8 months into the carnivore diet. And I decided to just talk to my butcher, saying, is it possible you can just make me up some venison? Because they have wild venison. It's basically a wild setting. They've got acres upon acres. They go in and out of the woods and they just live in a very natural environment. And so they got a lot of fatty cuts off the shoulder of this venison. They put it in. They said there was no grains, no binders, no fillers, no nothing. Consumed them. A few hours later, my gut was creasing like something else, like I'd eaten cereal or something. And I couldn't work it out. I went back and I wasn't going to say anything because these guys are lovely. They're really, really great. And everything that they sell is just top notch. But they said, how are your sausages? And I said, well, look, I'm not going to lie. I had a reaction, and they were really baffled because they said they washed it all in water. They didn't put anything. I can't get my head around that. So who knows? But I can eat venison. I've noticed chicken, I don't do well at all. Pork is okay, but I usually consume Iberico. So they're almost exclusively just eating acorns. And so it's the stuff they love to eat. Very, very healthy, melts in your mouth like butter. It's really, really lovely stuff. But again, I do best on lamb and beef, fatty lamb, fatty beef. That's it. That's how I thrive.
Fair. Nice. We've got about 11 questions, guys. There's probably going to be more to come up. Should we get through them quickly, or should we just go as we are?
Yeah, sure. Just read them off.
Yeah, I'll just go through them. I won't add anything to ones I think you guys can answer better. I think was probably most of them. But how many meals are you having per day going carnivore? Do you have snacks in between meals? I'm currently doing it with 1 meal of steak and eggs, hot sauce. Maybe going to try alternate days eating. I eat 4 meals per day. No, I don't have snacks. I don't recommend anyone has snacks ever. I recommend either smaller meals or bigger meals. You have to base a meal around protein and fat. You can't just eat half a chicken breast or 1 boiled egg. You have to eat a meal. That's not going to be sufficient for anyone if you're not doing that. Largely speaking, the people that I consult with tend to eat 2 meals per day, balance between protein and fat, and have about 4 to 5 foods in their carnivore diet. So that means they don't just eat beef. They don't eat every meat, but they don't eat no meat. So usually 2-3 meats, maybe eggs, maybe cheese, maybe some sort of dairy milk, batter. That's the people I speak to. They have people that have the most success on the carnivore diet. What about you guys? I mean, how many meals do you have a day, Lee, out of interest? Because I know you've got a different digestive tract to a lot of us.
Yeah, again, it's taken me a while to get to this point, but for a long time now, I've been consuming almost always 1 meal a day. I'd love to get up and just get on with my day. I don't really think about food, honestly, until about maybe 3 p.m. I start to get a little bit of hunger. I'm usually eating around about 4:30 to 5, and I'm always finished by 6 p.m. So as we were doing this today, I was finished by 6 p.m. I would say once every 2 weeks, I have a breakfast, and maybe once a week max, I may have 2 meals. But like what you're saying, they are not snacks. I eat until I don't want to eat anymore. And actually, if I do have a breakfast, I don't consume a lot. It's very strange. You think, oh, I do feel quite hungry. So I go, well, look, I'm going to eat. I'm not going to beat myself up too much or stress myself out too much. But I can't eat a lot when I do. So I do feel better, and I do thrive on 1 meal a day. And I pretty much continue to do that. That's what I'm going to do going forward.
Fair. Phil, are there any questions you can kind of see on the screen here that you particularly want to answer? You've not said much for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll just answer the how often do I eat? It just I eat when I'm hungry and I stop when I'm full and I don't snack. And it could be once a day, could be twice a day. It's very, very seldom more than that because I usually don't eat very early. That's it, really. Simple as that.
Fair, yeah. Hair loss. Well, any one of us here has hair.
I want to go for this one. This is a funny one, actually, because, you know, you get vegans coming on my channel going, oh, look, you're bald. It must be the meat. Well, I didn't have a haircut between 1979 and 2011. I had 4-foot-long dreadlocks, and my last bout of veganism had them falling out. So that was when I got rid of them. It was nothing to do with carnivore. And some people seem to grow hair back from carnivore. I didn't. Bart says he didn't. It's never worked for me, but I had a really good innings with hair. You know, I had a lot of it all my life. I'm not bothered now. It's gone. That's it. You know.
I shaved mine off. I think people experience, you know, some sort of keto reaction, carnivore flu, whatever you want to call it. Initially, their gut microbiomes are stabilized. Maybe they don't assimilate nutrients as well initially. And after a period of maybe 2 to 3 months, when cortisol levels are more regulated because the gut's healed up, your body's more stable, your body's in equilibrium effectively. That's when I see people start to regrow any lost hair. Me, I shave my hair off because I don't like it on my head. It saves me having to wash as much, which is really handy as well. And it saves me a lot of money on toxic hair products. So that's just work all right for me. Lee, have you experienced this at all? Any sort of anecdote at all?
Well, for me personally, I had started receding. It's quite fair here, but what I would say, it just seems to have plateaued. It doesn't, you know, in the nearly 20 months of carnivore, I haven't really noticed any changes, good or bad. So for me, you know, I can't really tell you there was any differences. But if you think about what's good for your hair, it's all found in animal products. If you want healthy hair, healthy nails, all these things, it's the nutrients that you need is found in animal products, proteins and stuff like that as well. That, you know, if you think of what all this stuff's made out of, it's not made out of plant materials. So you're going to fare best on animal nutrition.
Yes, I'm using my beef fat right now. So I use it on my wrists, which I get eczema, and just on my head around here where I get dry skin. It works a treat and I don't reek for it. Whereas anything I'd used my skin before would leave me red, rashy, itchy, irritated. This stuff doesn't do that, and it's the only thing I've put in my body. Other than maybe coconut oil, but I don't want to smell like coconut, so seems to work out all right. The next question is a question for the gentleman in the middle. That's I think that's you, Phil. A question about psoriatic arthritis. Any conditions alongside PSA? And yes, what conditions? How long were they resolved on carnivore?
It was funny. Somebody sent me a scan or a photocopy or something or whatever of my book, of the page in my book, where somewhere near the beginning I reproduced a letter that I sent to my rheumatologist. Absolutely useless people there. Of all the ailments that I had. And I'd forgotten most of them. I had a ton of them. I mean, God, where would I start? Rosacea, pompholyx, where your sort of palm of your hand starts rotting. Not too much psoriasis, but IBS, lots of joint stuff, iritis. That's horrific. That really hurts when you start refocusing your eye and it sort of trying to rip the iris off the lens where it glues itself on. It's really nasty. It's almost like just basically arthritis in the eye. You know, it's horrible inflammation. That was horrible. A ton of things, fatty liver, kidney stones from my juicing of spinach, a ton of things alongside it. Calcifications, they disappeared. Well, they've all disappeared. I cannot tell you how long it took because I didn't really take a good path to do it. I was sort of taking things out and experimenting, and I did it all a really stupid way. But when I see people go completely fatty beef, lamb, salt and water, and keep the fat levels up, the gut can basically heal in about 3 weeks. But the trouble is, it's like turning the engines off on an oil tanker. It doesn't generally stop the symptoms by then. They can take longer. And as Natasha Campbell McBride said on my podcast a little while ago, it's just beautiful. I thought there is no such thing as bad inflammation. It's all good. It's all the body trying to do something, but you just need to shut off the reason why it's doing that inflammation. So, it can take longer for that, but it really depends how old you are. It depends whether you're getting all the light right, whether you're doing some grounding, whether you're getting some sun, what previous history you've got, how much oxalate dumping you're doing, how many meds you've taken. It really is a how long is a piece of string thing. But if you get everything right, it will heal up the fastest it possibly could. But I can't put an exact time on it.
Yeah, cool. Next question. So I'm struggling to keep up the questions here, guys. That's why I'm so deep in thought. But I'm trying to heal my SIBO. 4 months on carnivore, but have not figured out when to drink water. During hours after a meal, I get thirsty 1 hour after, but it messes up my digestion when I drink. I think most people are just habit drinkers. They'll sit there with a liter of water, just think, oh, drink it. Oh, they're drinking water. Oh, I drink some water. Their mouth's not even dry. And if the mouth's dry, you probably need more salt in your diet. Or you just need to eat more food. A lot of people, I'd actually in this instance look at dry fasting if you can do it safely. That would be actually quite effective for helping resolve that sort of thing out. Just make sure when you put the food back in, it has to be good food, not crap, basically, not processed junk. Outside of that, I tell people to not drink any water at least half an hour before food and about an hour after food. And that's could be extended a bit longer if you're a bit damaged. And if you are drinking water in that time, drink to first. Don't drink for the hell of it, which I said a lot of people do, and they do so much of it. I drink about 2 liters a day, maybe 2.5 liters. I'm 108 kilos and lean. There's no reason why anyone out there needs to be drinking 5-6 liters unless they're very physically active and an athlete, for example. So, I think it could be that issue. It could be just be drinking too much. When you are drinking, drink water, not coffee, not tea. Drink the stuff that does hydrate you. If possible, add some salt to it. That'll help you produce more chloride, more acid in your gut to activate different enzymes to break down food. So that's my short take on it. But Lee, what's your experience of this one in terms of maybe healing the gut and thirst and stuff like that?
Well, first of all, I agree with everything you said. I don't drink. I would try not to drink around meals if you can. That helps keep the stomach acidic high. Again, add salt and all this stuff to your water, keeps the minerals up rather than, and again, if you think about the water, it's so high in deuterium. Talking about deuterium, that's a problem. So you then got to try and deplete that. If anything, in some ways, what you're saying about the dry fasting, you're at least going to result to the water that's depleted, if you like, in the body, kind of thing. But it's tricky. It's difficult because it's not something you can really gauge or measure the bacterial overgrowth in your gut. I mean, it was like me trying to figure out why I've got this bacterial imbalance perhaps under the skin after the surgery, and now I'm getting this condition develop. It's very difficult. I dropped milk, I fasted, that seems to have done the trick, reset, and now I seem to be fine. It could be like a time thing, adaptation, perhaps. It's very, very difficult, but you could try that. I've often wondered sometimes when you salt your meals, that makes you thirsty, and so it's very difficult not to consume water immediately after the meal. So I've not personally experimented with not adding salt and then seeing how that feels, because I've also heard a lot of people talk about when they eat mostly raw meat and stuff like that, they don't really drink a lot of water. And I do personally eat a fair amount of raw products, but I just don't advocate for it because I don't think it's very helpful. If every carnivore looked like they were eating raw meat, it's kind of like not very appealing for people to try it. And so I do eat a lot of this stuff behind the scenes, raw. I had a whole mackerel. I literally cut the mackerel down the middle and ate the whole thing raw. But I don't usually make videos about that because I think that's just going to turn people away. But I wonder whether if you were happy to try that, you might find that helps, eating more raw and not salting your food and then drinking less water. It's very, very difficult to say.
Yeah, I mean, the raw side of it would be for people that perhaps don't have regulated gut, believe it or not, in that it does contain a bit more taurine than cooked food. People can argue all day about the DS score, the biological value of different proteins. At the end of the day, we've been cooking meat for about, I don't know, a million years, I don't know, like forever. But there's always going to be some instance where someone out there will have an anecdote or a group of people, oh, I notice I feel better eating raw meat. If you can do that, you can get it well sourced. I'm not against that at all. You know, if you like it, fair enough. They did actually ask me about raw meat when I was interviewed for a news article, and I was like, I just cook it in the air fryer. If a bit comes out a bit raw, I don't really care, put it that way. But I don't source out raw meat deliberately. I quite enjoy salted cooked food for the most part. But yeah, I was like, yeah, most people don't actually eat raw meat. It's not what you think on Instagram or TikTok. Most people I speak to eat cooked food for the most part. Largely speaking. So yeah, Phil, do you have a take on it at all?
Not really. You've covered it. Lee's covered the deuterium side. I just think that quite often people find that if they eat more fat, higher fat, then you can get away with drinking less. You don't get so thirsty because animal fat will, you know, it's very low deuterium, but it also sort of triggers the cells to produce their own deuterium depleted water. So, you know, high fat, and you might find that you need to drink less.
Yeah. If you cook food as well.
Would you say is that biogenesis? Is that what you call it when the body's kind of resulting in making its own or resulting to its own water? Is that what you would call it?
I don't know.
It's a form of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a form of it. Yeah. Yeah. When you cook food as well, you lose about 20% moisture in it anyway. So you're getting in 20% more mass of water when you're not cooking food. So no wonder why. I mean, you're going to be 20% less first, theoretically, something like that. But you know, it's an interesting point. Yeah. Next question is about someone who's lost too much weight in the carnivore diet, which could be a bad or a good thing. Depends where you're at. Stage 4 as well. I wasn't able to eat enough on OMAD, so I went to 2 meals and now I eat 3 meals 3 times in 8 hours. Thoughts? Phil, what's your take on like meal timing frequency and that sort of thing?
Well, you know, if you've got stage 4 as well, I would just immediately say, please go and get a consult with Zofia Clements at Paleomedicina in Hungary. Go and get, you have to go to Hungary, you know, go and look up Paleomedicina, you know, get maybe some confidence, have a look at my interviews with her. The results that they're having on that are amazing. And I think you should really take her advice. I generally send all my clients who come to me with something like that, you know, I'm happy to do a consult, but mostly for me, it's the basic stuff and to give them a lot of confidence. Whereas Zofia is very much down the line with like blood tests and really keeping you on board and the clinical results they have. So, you know, losing weight again, you know, if you have stage 4, there can be something else going on there, which loses the weight. It depends which weight you're losing. If you're getting sarcopenic and you're losing muscle, then, you know, that's something you really need to address. It's not like, you know, these ridiculous oncologists, they say, oh, eat whatever you like to keep your weight up. It doesn't matter. And that's got to be just the worst advice you can ever hear. So you will lose weight, you know, when you're in a healing phase. I've gone down to really emaciated twice in my life. And I didn't worry about it because you know that when the gut's healed and when things heal up and the body's finished doing what it's doing, the weight comes back on again. But please go and see Zofia if you've got that. Just don't muck about.
Yeah, what do you do, Lee? In terms of like meal frequency? I mean,
it's tricky. I was only thinking it's so tricky.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in a position where you're losing weight and you almost feel like the best thing to do is fast. That it's kind of like such a situation to find yourself in. That's very tricky. All I would say, to me initially, my reaction was you don't want to be consuming protein multiple times a day. I think in your position, I just don't think you want to be encouraging elevated blood glucose potentially from multiple protein spikes, if you know what I mean. So I think that really, if you could perhaps try and do, I know you're saying it didn't help 1 meal a day, but maybe it's tricky. That's very difficult. That's very difficult for me. I know I can do it. So it's tricky to understand how the position you're in, how you feel energy wise, if you feel like you're wasting away or something like that without eating 3 meals a day. But to me, it's just like try and get your protein in 1 meal. Get your protein in 1 meal. Maybe eat butter. You know, if you can get some grass-fed, unpasteurized butter, snack on that, or snack on tallow. Right, eat that stuff.
Tallow, yeah.
Yes, or dripping, you know, snack on that when you feel like you need to eat something, and then get one decent meal in where your protein comes in one hit. That's what I would do, but definitely seek some meaningful help from somewhere, you know.
Yeah,
Sure.
with cancer as well. Yeah, the butter's not the way to least,
Oh, of
right?
course, right. Yeah.
Tallow is the way to go, and it should be, you know, like a third by sight on the plate to 2/3 lean meat, and keep the fats right up. And if you do fast, dry fasting preserves muscle mass a lot better than water fasting. So,
I probably won't comment on this one just because I don't consider myself an expert on it. But I've heard a lot of people talk about these sort of things. I can extrapolate from what they've said. What I would recommend is looking at Harry Serpanos' channel. That's Harry, Serpanos. On his channel, he has a list of different playlists. And on one of them, there's something like a cancer protocol. So I'm not going to give medical advice, but I'd look at that. And he's asked me a few times to start investigating things further so I could expand my knowledge and stuff, but I'm not ready to do that yet. I'm still working on the other stuff to get right. But yeah, I'd look at that one for sure. I think largely it isn't so much about the spikes in protein in terms of like having, you know, 3 meals per day or 2 meals. I think it doesn't really matter. I think the main thing is you're getting enough protein a day to somewhat sustain your weight. So not to the point that you're getting deplete, you're losing minerals, your body's just going to crap. So try and nourish yourself somehow, but again, don't force it. And I'll definitely look at the PKD protocol that Paleomedicina put out, which is just what Phil mentioned. So definitely look at that one. And if you can't hear what I'm saying, it's P for Philip, K for keto, and D for diet, not PPD or PDD, whatever it is. There we go. The next question is from Carnivore Connection, and it's about the endothelial lining. Some researchers have said that fat damages the endothelium of the lining. Yes, in too much, but it's very unlikely that you're going to do that because the side factor of eating fat and also protein with it. I don't think it's an issue personally, but do you guys have a take on it in terms of like whether fat damages the endothelium?
I mean, in terms of red meat, you know, if you're eating just red meat and the fat tallow or dripping, then that's the best stuff you could have for you know, healing, not aggravating, not inflaming. If you think what's going to cause problems will be fiber, gluten, homogenized dairy, all of these things like butter perhaps will be a little bit more inflammatory. Yeah, different things in plant proteins, wheat, stuff like that. That would be an issue that I don't think the animal, if anything, it's the very stuff you want to consume if you don't want to continue to inflame your gut and all the epithelial walls and stuff like that.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, nothing more to add to that.
Next question is from Sourcing a Whole Cow. Would you recommend paying extra for grass-fed over traditional corn-fed? I don't believe cows are actually fed corn. But been used to me, at least where I'm from. But yeah, for the most part over here, we're about 75% grass-fed anyway. They could even be higher than that. That's if you're from the UK. If you're from the US, I don't know. I'm not convinced that it's absolutely important to get grass versus grain-fed. If you got the extra money, go for it. If you want to just spend a bit of money and have some, I don't know, oily fish, some sardines, mackerel, fresh stuff each week, I'd rather someone spend money on that, to be honest. It gives you a bit more flavour, a bit more variety, which might be interesting for you. Gives you more omega-3. The omega-3 to 6 ratio is overstated, I think, and I'm someone that loves omega-3. I think it's one of the most essential, well, it is one of those essential nutrients. So I'd look at that myself. But Phil, do you ever take on this at all in terms of like sourcing whole cow and stuff like that?
No, not really. I mean, I know people do it, and just go talk to certain farmers. You can find it, or just look at, maybe put it in one of the carnivore Facebook groups, and just see if anybody can recommend somewhere. You'll get a good good few answers, I'm sure. A lot of people do it.
Yeah, you'd be surprised if you ask around, if you know a local farm, honestly, you'd be quite surprised. Next questions. Raw dairy in the UK. Where do you guys find all this stuff? I mean, obviously not you, Phil, but
there's a great place in Brasted near Westerham called Park Farm. and they've got the most delicious, if you can tolerate it, they've got the most delicious, creamy, raw Jersey milk. It's all grass-fed. When the pasture's bad, they bring them in, they're eating silage and hay and stuff like that. So very healthy cows and really delicious milk. If you can tolerate it, I would just recommend not drinking more than 2 glasses just to hopefully stay in at least low-grade ketosis.
Nice. Yeah. I get my raw milk from down the farm, literally like 5-minute walk away from my house.
Nice.
I'm quite lucky in that sense. I was struggling for ages to find it online. I was Googling like everyone else. Raw milk farm, UK, buy, that sort of stuff. Turns out there's a place that does it literally 5 minutes walk away. It's literally the field along from my house.
Nice.
So it works out all right. There's a few farm shops online that would offer that kind of thing. Quite pricey, usually about £3.75 to £4 per litre. If you go directly to these places, usually you'll do it cheaper than that. I pay £2.50 per litre. But I believe there is a way to find out. There is a website which says where you can get raw dairy in the UK. I can't for the life of me remember what it's called though. But I'd certainly look that up. I don't understand this next question, which is why no raw meat?
You can eat raw meat.
You can do what you like.
That's fine. Raw meat's great.
Phil, raw meat, yes or no?
Yeah, now and again, not much. Some people go onto it completely. You know, some people who have problems digesting rendered fats, they go onto raw meat, or at least raw fats with a lightly cooked steak or something. No problem with raw meat. I don't understand really.
Yeah, same way.
Yeah. If you want to eat it raw, go for it.
Meat-centric diet is king. That's what I advocate for, however you want to do it.
Yeah. Have any of you gentlemen tried pemmican or biltong? One's certain ground meat, and the other one is just dried up meat. I've tried biltong myself, not pemmican. Biltong is nice. It's different to jerky. Jerky is usually seasoned, marinated in sugar and all sorts of crap. Biltong is usually going to be a better option. I just find it a bit dry and a bit low in fat. So for me, it could not be a meal or even a snack. I'd have to eat something alongside of it. Useful if you're traveling. Yeah, I mean, that's my take on it. What about you guys?
Yeah, well, pemmican's brilliant. Pemmican's, yeah, I've tried it. And also those carnivore bars are pretty much just pemmican, aren't they? That's what they are. They're just dried out and ground meat and encased in some tallow and let it solidify. And that's, yeah, it's fantastic if you can make it yourself, and great snack and keeps for about 50 years.
Made my own. I hadn't eaten anything like that since going carnivore because I just more pure, you know. But I made my own with some venison. So I just had some venison cut up and just strung it across my bay window. So I had during the winter it was a little bit more dry but cold. We had this little tea light candle, which obviously has this heat, and we tied some string across one handle to the window and then the opposite, and tied a piece of string across and poked like some kebabs through these little thin pieces of meat, and I hung them on these bits of string until they dried out above the candle that was heating it up, and that was quite nice. They just went and just snapped. But that's the only thing I've eaten since on the carnivore diet.
Fair. What do you think about the plans from the World Economic Forum? So that what are your plans about the people criminalizing farming and grazing? They say cows are bad for the climate. They want to create a safe society where they feed people's bug. Well, I don't know, not ideal.
Elite propaganda. It's the complete opposite. We want to be focusing on regenerative farming for both plants and animals and human health. If we have healthy plants, healthy humans, healthy animals, that's better for the planet. You can actually sequester carbon back into the soil with regenerative farming done properly. It's just a natural ecosystem. It's the old-fashioned way of doing things. There's no way we should be going in the direction that we're going in. It's absolutely absurd.
Absolutely. Exactly. We should have got Ben on.
Yeah, we should have got Ben on for this one. But then again, listen, there you go. I've got to say this one again. We go well into that in our Red Pill Food Revolution book that's just landed on my doorstep today, first copies. And it goes back in hundreds of years, really, with the history of how this has come about and what they've been trying to do to us. So, yeah, it's really important to go and support all your local farmers, keep them going. You know, if you can possibly go and buy all your meat there and not out of supermarkets, then go there. And yeah, they do want to create a slave society, and they want to keep us sick and ill. And yeah, the whole food system is tied into the whole medical system. And yeah, so support that and take no notice of these bastards that are trying to feed us cricket flour and beyond burgers.
You think 2/3 of all agricultural land is marginal. You can only graze ruminants on that. You can't grow crops there because you can't grow crops in dirt. You can't. The only thing that eats the cellulose, which is the grass, are ruminants. And so that's what you do. That it's just the way we restore and keep that going. It's a balance. It's an ecosystem. It's all symbiotic. And you can't grow plants in dirt, and so they have to spray fixed ammonium nitrate all over the place, and that creates nitric oxide, and then that's 265 times more potent than CO2. So it's totally backward.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, I believe it's you, Lee. You may have got a nice donation here of $50 American.
Oh, wow. Lovely. Appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Sweet.
Not bad. Take it.
Very much.
Take it. Very good. What do you think about the plans? I've already answered this one. Didn't press the button. What's the thing about burning butter? Butter bites, burnt bite butter. The idea is that it caramelizes the proteins in it, which makes it slightly sweet. So if you cook meat, it's got a slightly sweeter taste as opposed to if you eat raw meat, apparently. I can get behind that. It's called the browning effect or the Maillard reaction. It just for flavor to condense down fat, basically, more flavorsome. I'd rather just have it as it is. Personally, I don't really like burnt butter myself, but do you guys do this at all? Do you guys add burnt butter to your diets or whatever?
I add it to my cast iron pan just to finish off the steak sometimes. That's about it. I don't eat burnt butter or anything like that, no.
Fair, yeah. Next question is about rice flour versus wheat flour. Wheat flour has more lectin, more gluten, I imagine. Rice flour is relatively innocuous. It's just a carb, basically. It's just a sugar. Will contain a small amount of arsenic, but that's about it. Do you guys know anything else about that at all?
I would have said exactly the same thing. I mean, I would stay clear from both, but that if I had to, yeah, rice flour probably would be better.
Yeah, if we buy the sausages for the kids, I don't really eat them. But if we buy them for the kids, then go for the Heck ones in England. That's what they're called. They're widely available, and they've got a bit of rice flour. I'm not bothered about that. They won't do my kids any harm. They're mostly carnivore anyway, so they didn't get as sick as I did and ruin their guts as bad as I did. So, that'll be fine. I'd much rather go for the rice flour than the wheat flour. But if you're autoimmune, don't do either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the bodybuilders worked this one out about 20 years ago, and maybe a bit earlier than that. They worked out the best diet for in terms of like your gut health, but still eating a lot of food is going to be a steak, eggs, and rice kind of diet, or steak, chicken, rice kind of diet. Rice over potatoes, just because it digests quicker, less anti-nutrients, less fiber.
Less oxalate.
Yeah, all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, rice is just sugar with a bit of extra stuff in it. Maybe a bit of arsenic if you get it badly sourced. But if you do happen to have anything like rice, guys, wash it like loads of times. Get as much crap off as you can. Next question is from the Carnivore boss, the boss of the carnivores. Have you noticed any changes in your temperament? My 13-year-old son has anger issues, and I'm trying to get him on a carnivore diet to see if it'll help. Yeah, I used to be a miserable fuck, really bitter, nasty pain. No, I wasn't a bad person, but I was a nasty bit of work. I was a horrible person. Hard to be around, miserable, depressed, anxious. Sort of person you leave the room to be around, to not be around, So yeah, I've had immense benefit from it. I'm much more calm and stoic now. I still don't like certain people online. I still get trolled and people piss me off big time. But I deal with it better. That's the most important thing. It's less of a stress and my chi sort of thing. What about you guys? Do you feel better on a carnivore diet and temperament?
100%.
Yeah.
I think you just got to look at a conversation between a carnivore and a vegan, on Facebook, and then we're just generally chilled and sort of making jokes, taking the piss, giving them useless anecdotes, that kind of thing. And then they always end up in caps lock screaming abuse at you. It just always
murderer.
Happens. Murderer, cannibal. I've had death threats on my YouTube channel and all that. And when you see people go carnivore, quite often they go, how was I so militant? How was I so angry? And I was so emotional. I was crying half the time at all these things. And then it does. It stabilizes the energy and stabilizes the emotions for sure, so that you are very chilled out.
Yeah. I'm just far less reactive. I act more and react less. And like you say, cope and manage things more stoic. I practice that as best as I can, but it's definitely easier when you're eating meat and you're not crying out for nutrients and being all unstable.
You're starved.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. How are you guys doing for time? I'm aware it's gone quite on quite a bit now. Do you guys want to stay on? Or are you
flexible? It's up to you guys.
I'm all right. I'll go on for a bit. Kind of, half past or something. We can whiz through a few more.
I don't get until about 8:30. So
8:30. Right. So 8:29. We'll cut you off.
Yeah.
We'll say bye and what.
Yeah. React.
What kind of benefits have you noticed with your oral health? We'll put it this way: I've not brushed my teeth more than 6 times in the last year in real life. And when I say I don't mean I've not used toothpaste. I've not used a brush in my mouth for about a year. Maybe 6 times before an event, just to make sure they're clean, something like that. But I've not actually brushed them. So yeah, no issues at all. I'm still goofy as hell, but my teeth are exceptionally white, given that I used to eat 1,000 grams of carbs every day for years. So yeah, they're fine. But what about you, Phil?
Well, my teeth are definitely not white, but they're absolutely fine, and I've got all my teeth at 61, and I haven't had a filling. I never go to the dentist. I never even think that I will ever need a dentist. It doesn't occur to me. And one little filling in there was a tiny little mercury one, and then I had that taken out and had a white one put in. But that was in my teens that I had that, and it was probably just somebody drilling it just to get some money. They probably didn't need it at all. And we see small cavities even healing up on a carnivore diet. And if you think of the Inuit, they didn't have any cavities. In the old skulls, beautifully spaced teeth. No crowding and no cavities. Yeah, it's fine. My teeth, they don't look great, but they got no holes in them, and they work great, and they chew steak up fine.
Yeah,
they're all right.
I'm similar, really. Like, my teeth don't look great because I paid the price through eating so much carbohydrates and plants back in the day. I remember being quite young, and when I used to smoke a bit of weed, we used to just I had braces on at the time, and I'd sit up eating all this potato starch and just go to sleep and pass out. And so my teeth, they're not perfectly white. They don't look perfect. But since going carnivore, my oral hygiene has improved. I don't get any real plaque build up. Like I say, they feel really clean after I eat a steak, and I haven't used toothpaste for over a year easily. So I definitely recommend it. You got to think, if you sunk your teeth into a piece of meat, it's not going to erode the enamel. It's not going to erode like it would if you sunk your teeth into a piece of fruit or some oats and just left it there. I mean, it's not going to take long, and you're going to destroy your teeth. So
yeah, I mean, our gut health impacts our oral health as well, believe it or not. So our gut microbiome that's down there will actually affect what comes out here. So say a period of day you got bacteria building up. That can sort of transmit itself into like sugars or different bacteria, which are probably not helpful to the gums, cause infections, all that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, one thing I did notice was under one of these 2 front teeth, I had this tiny little like chip. Not really noticeable as it really looked, but that's completely healed over. As in that there's actually bone there where it wasn't there before. So that was not healing otherwise, because I had that chip for years, like maybe 15 years.
I'm going to need a study, mate. I'm going to need a study for that.
Yeah. Anecdotes don't support my claim. No studies, no science.
Yeah. Where's the peer-reviewed study, though?
Yeah, where is it? I mean, it's like the carnivore thing. Is it like you could have 1,000 carnivores on screen at once saying, "Oh, I've been carnivore and I think it's great and my health's better." Oh, but it's not a study. It's the most reliable kind of information you have, because these people aren't selling you anything.
Yeah.
I mean, Lee and I spoke off air a couple of days ago, and Lee was like, "Yeah, I don't really sell anything. I don't really promote anything. Just a proper diet." So he's not absolutely getting minted off a carnivore diet making videos. He's making money, yes, but he's not.
True revenue.
His anecdote is true. His anecdote is true. It's clean, honest anecdote. There's others out there as well.
Easier ways to make money than to make up, adopting a carnivore diet and a bunch of health outcomes from that. It's pretty crazy to me, but yeah.
No, but we're all, like they say to me, we're all sponsored by the meat industry, aren't we? That's why we got Ferraris out the back and everything. I would love to be if the meat industry wanted to sponsor me, but I don't even know what they mean by the meat industry. They always say that, don't they? I don't even know what they're talking about.
Big meat. Okay. Okay.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's many big processed food companies like Pepsi Cola really that are selling meat.
No, they're the opposition, aren't they?
Who owns the majority of the food market? It's not Farmer John down the lane. It's big food. It's Monsanto, all these sort of companies. I don't know. I'm get wound up. Pork skin's really to eat. Not sure the industry used to fry skins in some machine bad oils. Should we really be using deep fried oils? No, I wouldn't touch cooked skin. If it's so, you look at the package. It should say pork. Then it will say maybe like salt, pepper, maybe something like that, and that should be it. It should be baked or fried in lard, beef fat, dripping, tallow, ghee. I don't know, whatever it is. But I'd avoid any kind of oil. If it says oil in it, don't buy it. Basically.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything like that? Like any sort of pork or chicken skins or?
I mean, I have a bit of pork every now and again. Usually Iberica pork, which doesn't have the rind for some reason. But I mean, I've occasionally fancied a bit of pork rind, and I'll grab a bit of pork belly and crisp that up. Which I quite enjoy. It's almost like a dessert type thing, as like a treat every now and again. Doesn't seem to cause me any issues. Chicken I have noticed issues with, but not pork. But I'm going to be cooking that in tallow. I won't be, dripping, not in any oil in a bottle. I just don't touch any oil in a bottle. They're very unstable molecules, and they oxidize immediately. They hit the pan pretty much.
Yeah,
nice.
If you want these, I'm assuming we're talking here about like pork crackling or.
Yeah.
Or whatever. What are they called? Pork rinds in America. But yeah, the packets of them are all full of crap. You can taste the seed oils in them. It's horrible. Just go and get. You can order from the butcher. In fact, we get it for free. The missus eats it quite a bit, and you just get the skin with a good thick layer of fat. And then you just cut it into strips and kind of curl it up, put it in the oven and just roast it yourself. And you can make your own crackling. And there's absolutely no need to put all that crap in. They put like wheat flour in. You're looking at a pack of pork scratchings. It's got wheat flour in. What the fuck?
Yeah,
why did they put that in? It's ridiculous. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous.
What about the small amounts of carbs found in organ meats? What about them?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, if the food's been hung for a while, most of the sugar or the glucose has been taken out of it, the glycogen.
Yeah, there's like silly, tiny little amounts. It won't even really reflect any in your blood or anything. It's just going to be meaningless.
Just don't eat tons and tons of organ meat, so you end up like Fruit Saladino, having to eat 400 grams of carbs from fruit every day, to get rid of that. Yeah,
there's some sugar in organ meats, and there's some in mollusks and things. Weird little wiggly creatures in the sea that you can sometimes buy in some expensive restaurants. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. So
yeah,
it's trace. You're talking like maybe a couple of grams per 100 or something like that. It's not a lot. Yeah, next question is: been carnivore for about 4 months for gut issues. Initially helped, but seemed to have more gas reflux lately, despite eating only beef. Any thoughts on what could be going on? Thanks. I've got a number of thoughts. Phil, what's your take on this one?
Microbiome rearranging. It depends exactly what you're eating. I would ask so many more questions on that one before I gave a particular reply. There's a load of things it could be. So I'm going to say I'd have to ask a load more questions.
Yeah.
And bottle out
frequency. If you're snacking, that's going to potentially cause that problem because your body's prepping for a meal. You're going to start, releasing all these things and bile and acid and everything, and then all of a sudden, if there's only a little bit of food gone in, then that may repeat on you. That's all I would say. Perhaps result in snack it. Don't snack and reduce meal frequency. But again, I don't know exactly what you're eating, what you're cooking the stuff in, fat to protein ratio, the history of your health, and all sorts really. But frequency is the only thing I could point out.
That's a consultation question. Fortunately, you would be guessing. There's about 15, 20 different things it could be. So it's not very helpful, but that is a consultation question. I want to address this one quickly. So just throwing it out there, used to wear orange gloss behind the screens, found Apple screens to be absolute worst and burnt, and Samsung AMOLED and incandescent lights best. I don't have any light bulbs in my room. I don't use any light bulbs around the house. If I do, I use a red light panel. These are turned on when I'm on the live screens at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Otherwise, I don't really use them. My phone's always on blue blocking mode. I basically don't get any blue light exposure throughout the day other than looking at my phone without these glasses on, which is on blue blocking mode. So, yeah. The next question is there any reason to stay away from rabbit?
With the Apple screen, get
Iris?
Iris on the computer,
Yeah.
Iris Tech. It's much better than F-Lux because it deals with not only the light but the flicker as well.
I'd have to look into it myself.
I put this over. If I have to turn a light in my room any time, I use that. Especially, it's a red light filter, basically. It does the same thing. I notice it's really effective. It really sort of doesn't strain my eyes. I'm very light sensitive, so it's a big one for me. Is reason to stay away from rabbit. Rabbit starvation if your protein's too high and your fat is too low. But it does involve your fat being too low. So I'd eat it. I just add more fat to it. What do you guys do if you're eating rabbit?
Never eaten rabbit.
I've had it. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't touch the stuff really. Anything too lean, I don't really go near. If I had to, I was in the wild, obviously, be eating rabbits and most likely have to supplement carbohydrates.
Yeah. We're down to the last question, I think. Could there be benefits with products like Shilajit and that has fulvic acid? Phil, have you looked into this one too?
Shilajit, yeah, I used to take it back in my veggie and vegan days, and I'm glad it's another expense that I don't have to think about. I don't know. You know, there's a load of stories about it having benefits, but I think the fewer plants you eat, the fewer of these funny sort of remedies that you need. Shilajit, I forget what it is. It's like some kind of just black stuff from the Himalayas, isn't it? But yeah, it's I don't know. You know, very, very touted by the Ayurvedic people, possibly. But I think far better is to take things out. You know, my whole thing is subtraction. Take the stuff out that's causing the problems, and then you won't need to buy a load of things to counteract the problems caused by the other things you're eating. I'm not a big fan of it, no.
I've not heard much about it. I mean, I have looked at it before. It's one of the products when we're managing a health food shop that I didn't sell. No retailer, no brand rep, no brand ambassador wanted to sell it to us because it is crap. They didn't get good antidotes from it. No one noticed benefit from it. So that's the info I've got on it. But what about you? You looked at this too?
I really don't know much about this at all. So
no.
Pass.
Yeah, pass that one. That's all the questions done with. So actually got through everyone in under an hour and a half, which I think is incredible. I just want to say thank you, obviously, to Phil and also Lee for being here tonight. I appreciate their time. This is streamed across all three of our platforms. So my one is at Carnivore Muscle. You can't miss me. My logo's on it, which is Carnivore Muscle with black and red and white, I think. Phil is just Phil Escott. He represents Phil and Ben tonight from the bigfatchallenge.com. So check out their site. And also Phil has his YouTube channel, which is Phil Escott. Lee is Kent Carnivore. So Lee is actually not called Kent. So, yeah.
Just live there.
Yeah. So do you guys have any sort of last words before we wraps up?
Now you mentioned the Big Fat Challenge. I just wanted to mention that over the Easter weekend, I forgot to mention this, we've got the War on Health 2 conference, and it was so cool last time. We had a great time, and so we're doing it again over 2 days instead of 1 day. And if you go to the bigfatchallenge.com/events or just the Big Fat Challenge and click on the events thing, you'll see it. And we have Sophia Clemens. She's on Zoom, though, from Hungary. She couldn't make it over for this one. There's Ben and me. We've got Stephen Thomas talking. We've got Richard Griffiths. We've got Andrew Scarborough, and we've got Sarah Pugh back again, who's amazing on all the quantum stuff. And we've got Ahmad Malik as well, who is an incredible character, and talking about how the NHS has completely destroyed his career for speaking out against all the nasty little arm rapes and stuff that have been going on. And come see that. If you put the code in early bird, you can get 50 quid off for that. Come and see us. It's going to be a great weekend. And something I heard this morning, actually, we've also got this one later in the year. in Spain, and it's at a beautiful resort. We did it in 2019. It was fantastic. Then we had to cancel it because of the COVID hoax. And Sean Baker was going to come to that one. But this one, we got Anthony Chafee coming over for the whole week. And Sophia Clements will be there for the whole week. And Natasha Campbell McBride just told me this morning that she's coming for half of the week as well. So I can't wait to meet Natasha. I met the other guys. Well, I actually never met Anthony in person, but I'd never met Natasha or anything. And she sort of saved my life with her gut and psychology syndrome book back in 2010, 2011. She's always been a hero of mine. So I'm really glad she's coming as well. So check those out there at thebigfatchallenge.com. Come and see us. And there's nothing like live events. You know, it's great doing these things, but to get together, particularly after all this time when, you know, the elites have tried to keep us apart with anti-social distancing and staying at home to avoid an imaginary virus. I think these live events are great. So come along and see us if you can. That's in the beautiful Peak District in the UK.
Nice. Yeah. Unfortunately, I won't be there, but I'd like to get there in the future. So I'm waiting up for my invite for the next one whenever that one's configured. But yeah, all I have to say other than that is just check out my channel, you know, Carnivore Master on YouTube. I am going to Public Health Collaboration in the UK, and that is in Croydon, near London. And that is the 17th to 19th of May, I believe. So I'm going to be there. So hopefully see you guys there. You can meet me and lots of other people as well. And I get to meet you, which is pretty cool. Lee, are you going there at all? Is that too close to surgery?
I'm for some people that have come in later in the stream, they don't know. I haven't put the information out there, but I have got my surgery on the 13th of March. So that's possible. You know, I don't know where I will stand after that. It just depends on how well it goes, recovery. And yeah, who knows until I've sort of got myself out of hospital, really. But I'm not in trouble with my health. The carnivore diet hasn't destroyed my gut or anything like that. I just need to have a surgery that finalizes the one I had 7 years ago, which it has been on the cards. It's just been a long time coming, and COVID got in the way of that, and all these strikes that we've had haven't helped. I've been getting this ball rolling now for the last year and a half, and it's only happening now. So I will put a video up about that just to explain a little bit, so people know that I'll be taking a little bit of a time out kind of thing, most likely 2 weeks or something like that. Otherwise, I'm working on that video that we put together the other day, and so look out for that with me and Jonathan Griffiths. Hopefully a very useful video for people that's interested in exercise, bodybuilding, conditioning, recomp, all that kind of stuff in line with the carnivore diet. I haven't had anything like that on my channel, so that should be quite good.
Yes, it's pretty definitive, so all your commonly asked questions will be answered in that one. I've had good feedback so far on my channel. I've released it to a few select people. They seem to quite like it. So yeah, check it out on Lee's channel, one that does that. But that's all for tonight, guys. We'll see you next week on Tuesday, 7 PM UK time.